I'm Anthony Suppa, and my research is on supporting climate-neutral cities, district-scale retrofit scenario analysis for the built environment using expert input and UBEM, that's Urban Building Energy Modeling. So why focus on buildings? In the EU, buildings account for 40% of energy consumption and 36% of energy-related CO2 emissions. The EU has a decarbonization target of 2050, and by 2030 for 100 of the climate-neutral cities joining the new EU mission. So buildings are a big part of our carbon problem, and they have got to be a big part of our carbon solution. And UBEM can help us get there. UBEM uses computational modeling to calculate operational energy use, carbon emissions, the potential for retrofit scenarios, and this is across the entire building stock in an entire city or an entire district. So UBEM can be a valuable support tool in retrofit decision making. In a literature review on UBEM studies looking at district and city level retrofits, I've been looking at the nature of retrofit measures, and in the word cloud on the right you can start to see some of the top measures. These include heat pumps or window replacement or wall insulation, roof insulation, etc. We also look at the performance analysis. So what are the key performance indicators or KPIs used to measure performance, and looking at some of the performance levels. And this is in terms of energy reductions in percentage, or reductions in kilowatt hours, or in saved carbon emissions. We also look at cost analysis, so determining what are the costs in terms of total costs and the cost per square meter, as well as analyzing where did costs come from, where are the sources, and how are costs computed. In decision-making analysis, we're looking at why retrofits were selected over others, and whether there were any sort of special conditions like historic districts that influenced decision-making, or whether there were opportunities or constraints imposed into the modeling that influenced the decision-making. And very importantly, we look at whether stakeholders were consulted or there was stakeholder collaboration in designing retrofit scenarios. And applying the research to a case study, we would like to use stakeholder engagement to have stakeholders such as design experts select or rank or propose different retrofit scenarios to help achieve net zero carbon and net zero energy. We can then model the scenarios using UBEM and look at how the scenarios perform for energy consumption and for carbon emissions. We can also look at costs, modeling the costs of each scenario and looking at a cost optimal analysis for the retrofit. So thinking about this EU mission and 100 climate neutral cities by 2030, how do we get to climate neutral in 8 years? Well, part of the answer has to be through tools like UBEM, where we can support decision making, because as we know, cities need support in development and assessment of action plans and actions.